Today, we're going way beyond the classic white picket fence. We're going to dive into the hidden rules of buying specialized properties. I mean, you think buying a condo is just like buying a house? Trust me, it's not. So let's get right into it.
So you think you've got the home buying basics down, right? But what happens when the place you fall in love with is a downtown condo or a brand new house that's not even built yet, or maybe a quiet place out in the country? Each one of these has a completely different playbook, and not knowing the rules, well, that can be a really costly mistake. All right, first up, let's talk about the condominium. It's so easy to just think of them as apartments you can own, right? But the real difference, the thing that changes everything, isn't the building itself. It's the legal structure that holds the whole thing together. And here's the key thing you gotta understand. It's all about the difference between what's yours and what's ours. You have total ownership of your private unit, the space inside your four walls. But everything else, the lobby, the roof, the gym, the pool, those are called common elements. You actually share ownership and the responsibility for all those spaces with every other owner in the building. Now, to manage all those shared spaces, you have something called a condo corporation. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like a mini government for your building. It's run by a board of directors that the owners elect. They make the rules, they manage the money, they basically run the show. And just like any government, it needs money to run. Which of course brings us to that all-important condo fee, sometimes called a maintenance fee. It's that monthly payment you have to make, no ifs, ands, or buts. But it's not just for keeping the lights on in the hallway. It covers a whole lot more. Okay, so your fees are paying for the building's main insurance policy, all the general repairs and upkeep, salaries for staff like security or the superintendent, and the property management company. But the most critical part, the one thing that can literally make or break your investment, is the chunk that goes into something called the reserve fund. Think of the reserve fund as the building's mandatory, super important emergency savings account. It's for the huge, crazy expensive jobs down the road. By law, the corporation has to get a study done every 3 years to make sure there's enough money set aside for future big-ticket repairs, like a new roof or modernizing the elevators. A healthy fund is probably the best sign of a well-run building. And here's why this matters so much. If that fund is looking a little thin when, say, the elevators suddenly need $1 million fix, the board has no choice but to issue a special assessment. That's a surprise bill, often for thousands and thousands of dollars, sent to every single owner to make up the difference. It is the biggest red flag in the entire condo world. So how do you look under the hood before you buy? You get something called the status certificate. This document is literally the building's financial x-ray. It's a complete report card. Your lawyer has to review it because it shows the health of that reserve fund, the annual budget, any lawsuits against the corporation, everything. Skipping this step, it's like buying a used car without even looking at the engine. Okay, let's switch gears. We're going to move from existing condos to the world of new construction. This is a whole different ballgame. Here, you're not buying what you see. You're buying a promise, a dream on a blueprint. And that comes with its own unique set of rules, protections, and pitfalls. Now, when you're buying a new build, the law gives you this incredibly important protection, a 10-day cooling off period. This is huge. It gives you a window to take that massive 100-page agreement to your lawyer to review. And if you find anything you don't like for any reason at all, you can walk away and get your entire deposit back. No questions asked. Let's be real, delays are almost a guarantee with new builds. The law manages this with a system of dates. First, you'll get a tentative occupancy date, which is basically the builder's best guess. That'll eventually turn into a firm occupancy date. But the one you really need to circle on your calendar is the outside occupancy date. That's the final, absolute deadline the builder has to deliver by. And if the builder blows past that firm occupancy date, they don't just get to say, oops, you're actually entitled to compensation for your living expenses, up to $150 a day with a max of $7,500. And if they miss that final outside occupancy date, you have the right to just cancel the whole deal. Okay, so once you finally move in, your new home is protected by a mandatory warranty. It's best to think of it in tiers. The first year is all about the little things, the workmanship and materials. Stuff like a sloppy paint job, flooring that isn't installed right, or cabinets that are messed up. The builder has to fix all of that. The second tier lasts for 2 years, and it expands that protection to the guts of the home. This covers major stuff, like water leaks coming through the foundation, or big problems with your electrical, plumbing, and heating systems. And finally, you've got the ultimate safety net, The 7-year warranty protects against what are called major structural defects. This is anything wrong with a load-bearing part of the house that could threaten its stability or, make it unsafe. It's the long-term protection for what is probably your biggest investment. All right, let's leave the city and the suburbs behind for our last property type, the rural home. Buying out in the country is about so much more than just a bigger backyard. It means you are suddenly responsible for services you have probably taken for granted your entire life. Think about it. In the city, you turn on the tap, water comes out. You flush the toilet, waste goes away. In the country, you are the water company and the waste management company. You own and you have to maintain your own private well for water and your own septic system for waste. And often, your heat runs on a big tank of propane or oil that you have to get delivered.
So what does this mean? It means your due diligence checklist just got a whole lot longer. You absolutely have to get the well water tested for quality and to make sure it produces enough. The septic system needs to be inspected by a pro to figure out how old it is and if it's working properly. Is the road to your house maintained by the town all winter, or are you going to be snowed in? These aren't just minor questions. They're essential to your life there.
Whew, we have covered a lot of ground. So, to wrap this all up, let's boil it down into a quick, easy-to-reference checklist for each type of property. These are the absolute must-ask questions. For a condo, your focus has to be financial and social. Number 1, how healthy is that reserve fund? Then, you got to read the rules. Can you have your dog? Can you rent your place out on a short-term basis? And find out the tenant-to-owner ratio. If too many units are rented, some banks might get nervous about giving you a mortgage. Buying a new build, it is all about the builder and the contract. First thing, make sure they are actually registered with the warranty provider. Then you need to scrutinize those occupancy dates we talked about. And finally, ask about extra closing costs. New builds often have a bunch of extra fees and levies that aren't included in the sticker price. And for that country property, remember, you're buying infrastructure. You have to get those well and septic inspections. No exceptions. Confirm that the road is maintained year-round. And check if there are any restrictions on what you can do with the land, especially if it's near water or protected wetlands. At the end of the day, knowledge is your most powerful tool in any real estate deal. By understanding the unique playbook for each of these properties, you stop being just a hopeful buyer and you become an empowered one. So the only question left is, which path are you going to take?